Oh, the music, the intro. Steve Dewald, all things are right in the world. We're here, Rip City Roundtable Podcast. Steve, I almost forgot the name of my own show. I literally almost said the wrong thing. I'm your host, Corey Dickman, here with Steve. Steve, you doing okay? How you been?
I'm doing great. Been traveling around watching an ungodly amount of college basketball. So everything's right with the universe. So I'm happy to be back in the Pacific Northwest, been on the road for a little while. So I'm excited to jump on the show again.
Good. We're glad you're back. For people that have been like, where in the heck has this show been? If you listen to the episode, I think I did 4 weeks ago with Adrian, I told everybody I didn't give birth to our baby girl. My wife did, but had a baby. It's been a little tired. I'm tired, Steve. But I'm actually, this week we've been getting a little bit more sleep. So I feel energized, and that's what got me ready to be like, Steve, we got to do the podcast and talk about potential draft selections here for the Blazers. So here we are, and now you're back. What we want to do, okay, so I think it's fair to say that the Blazers, that's always going to be we. The Blazers have, I think, officially waved the white flag. Steve, would you agree? Have you been following the team over the last month or so?
Yeah, I would say, you can say the Blazers waved the white flag, but I think the basketball gods and the Western Conference standings have waved the white flag for you.
Yeah.
So, but yes,
yeah.
After a fun January where we saw the Blazers absolutely torpedo their draft odds, we're going to be headed towards the no man's land of the NBA lottery odds. So
like we had one assignment, Steve, and we failed. Like what are we doing? Like, it was what we won 11 out of 12 or 10 out of 11 or whatever it was, and yet here we still are with worse odds than we would have had. But whatever, that's in the past. We're here in the present. The Blazers officially, now we can be looking at this draft board, and I think it's always so fun during March Madness because really the casual basketball fan is not watching Illinois basketball during the regular season, right?
Mm-hmm.
We only really tune in if you pick them in your bracket. So we have now some eyeballs on these guys. We've talked about Cooper Flagg. The Rutgers players, that's interesting because they're going 2 and 3 on this CBS mock draft, and Rutgers didn't make the tournament. So does that say anything to you, Steve? Like Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey. Like these are two high-end prospects, and they could not lead their team to the tournament. Is that a problem, or does it not matter?
It's weird because for me, I think it's more of a poor reflection on Dylan Harper just because he is the point guard there. I think anytime you have especially a top-level point guard in college, the expectation is that you're going to lead the team into the tournament. I still think he's a heck of a player, and there's a reason why he's on the top of all these draft boards. Ace Bailey, for me, didn't hurt or help his draft stock at all. Like, you're talking about a player in Ace Bailey who 25 years ago probably wouldn't even have gone to college. So, we're seeing he's still the same prospect in my mind. Really good length, athleticism. As far as their draft stock not making the tournament, I don't think it's going to hurt them too much because the talent evaluators have plenty of tape. These guys were going to be, lottery picks regardless of what happened this season, unless something catastrophic happened. But no, it is odd to see the top of the draft board and seeing two players that aren't in the tournament, which is definitely a bummer.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bummer just from a optic standpoint because, and maybe this is a testament to me, again, had a baby, so I have some excuses. But like, if Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper walked into the studio right now, I wouldn't know what they look like. And again, maybe that's shame on me, but that's what the tournament it provides. Now these people kind of become household names in some way. These players do, and so they miss out on that. But clearly, it doesn't affect where they're going in the draft. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, in a perfect world, you'd want CBS would love to have them in the tournament, where you're going to have that crossover with your NBA fan base and the college fan base.
Yeah,
so
for sure. Okay, well, before we dive in, I want to get your thoughts on the players we have seen in the tournament and what you've been noticing, because if you go even the top, I'm just going 12, 13, 14, 15. I mean, even Colorado State has a player on this list.
Yeah.
I mean,
not just a player. One of my favorite players that I have notes prepared for this podcast.
Okay.
Don't worry.
All right. I don't want to spoil, but really, I mean, like 17 of the top 20 players are playing in March Madness or have been playing in March Madness. So very, very cool. Before you start telling us some of the players that you've been enjoying, we'll update everybody if you're not keeping track of this, where the Blazers currently are in the standings. We're eighth. Is it eighth? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Excuse me. But we're really hoping the Spurs pass us. Someone just walked in the studio that's a big Spurs fan. So let's get the Spurs to pass us. So eighth, I think, gives us like 7% chance or 6% chance of the number one pick. It's somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I think you have like an outside chance of 15% to make it into the top 4 or something along those lines. 15 to 20%.
15, I think you're right. 15 to 20% into the top 4. So, Steve, I think let's go through. Talk to us about some players you're watching, but we also need to keep in mind, if we look at this list here, eighth place, who's projected to go eighth is the son of Jason Richardson, former NBA player, Jace Richardson from Michigan State, who's currently still playing. And let's tell the audience, we're recording this Friday, March 28th. So Sweet 16 games are happening right now. But by the time this airs, we will probably have a Final Four selection already ready. So Michigan State, they could still be in it at this point. We don't know. I'll give you the floor, Steve. Who are some players that you've been watching?
All right, so we'll start with the predictable one. We'll let it rip with Duke, where you kind of a one-stop shop for 3 lottery players. Cooper Flagg, if you don't know who he is by now, you've been living under a rock. He is, I think, going to be the next big thing in the NBA. You just look at his frame and what he can do skill set-wise and how he really came on in the last 2 months of the season and really became that player that everybody expected. I'm trying to think of who he reminds me of the most. And I really just keep coming back to like a mid-career Kevin Garnett type player where he's got that awesome, like wide frame, lengthy. He can play defense, rebound. He also is very comfortable with the ball in his hand on the perimeter. Not necessarily a complete knockdown shooter right now, but someone who has all those skills. So I'm like a Chris Bosh, Kevin Garnett type that I just, him and like NBA executives are in love with.
Yeah. I've noted just watching highlights. Like I watched a few Duke games in the tournament. They ousted my Baylor Bears, so that was very sad. But Cooper takes that 3-point shot with confidence and it looks good, but you're right. It'll get there, man. I mean, that he'll start knocking that down at that 40% clip where everybody likes to be at, but yeah. Amazing.
So along those lines, we'll keep that thought in mind is Con Knipple, the sharpshooting other lottery pick from Duke. Just a crazy efficiency player. I think he's 40% from 3, above 45% from the field, and above 90% from the free throw line. And he shoots a fair amount. Like he is a floor spacing problem solver. Someone I'm very interested in for the Blazers. Now, granted, you can kind of get this player in any draft. Like this is not just because of their color of their skin, but this is kind of a Dalton Connect type player that I think there's one in every draft. But just a high efficiency guy. I was actually kind of excited to watch him play in the ACC tournament once Cooper Flagg went down for those couple games to see how he'd pick up that increased offensive load. And he really answered the call. He had a kind of a quiet game or a quiet tournament so far, but I mean, really minutes wise hasn't had to play a whole lot the first 2 games, especially. No offense there.
Yeah.
But,
we locked him down. It was Proctor. We couldn't keep that guy from knocking down 7 threes. But, Knipple he's going to make noise at some point in this tournament where he'll be the guy in that game.
Yeah. And then finally, it's Kaman Malawach, the 7'2" center, got just unbelievable soft touch, is a lob threat, vertical spacer with the potential to be a perimeter spacer as well, which is just awesome to see from a five. I think just in the rule of the universe, the Blazers will always be in position where the best player on the board will be a position that makes no sense for them to take. So, like if we look at history, so I'm thinking center this year, but there's a world that I could see where you could run a Malawatch Donovan Clingan set and just go Michigan with it and just run 2 7-footer pick and rolls. But no, seriously, just in all seriousness, Kaman is an unbelievable talent. Someone I've been watching for a couple of years. Was at the Hoop Summit last year out here in Portland. Just a highly skilled player for his size, and I'm really interested to see what he can do at the next level. I think he's someone 5 years from now we could be looking back at this draft class and we don't understand why he wasn't a top 3 pick.
Yeah, for sure. No, and it's like as they were getting ready to play Baylor, and I was, of course, like the salty fan where I'm like, it's not Knipple, it's not Flagg. Like, we don't need to worry about them. It was like all this dude because I was like, we have no size, and he's just going to eat us up on the offensive glass. And yeah, I mean, that ended up happening because we just couldn't hang with these guys. Cooper Flagg ended up having a good game too. But, okay, those are your top 3 from Duke.
From Duke. And then I would just say, just shout out to, I mean, you mentioned him already, going to be in action later today as we're recording this, is Jace Richardson, someone who's kind of lined up with Portland. Another one who falls into that rule of the Blazers will have an opportunity to take a player that positionally makes no sense. Yeah. So stop me if you've heard this. A 6'3" combo guard that can do a little bit of everything on offense. Maybe not the most strong defensive player, but
we've never had that on our team. Ever.
No, it's not like we already don't have 6 of those guys on the Blazers right now. But I love Richardson's game. This is a very quintessential Tom Izzo Michigan State team, and Jace Richardson fits that bill perfectly. I threw a shot at his defense, but actually a tenacious defender.
Sure.
Gives great effort on both ends of the floor. Only 18 years old. He just needs to kind of work on really ironing out some efficiency stuff on the offensive side.
Yeah.
But from a turnover perspective, turnover to assist, I mean, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. So someone who I think can hit the ground running. And then I'm always a fan of players that had, a parent who played at a very high level, and to see his dad operate and understand that, pro basketball is a profession. I always love those type of players. Donovan Mitchell is the guy who comes to mind for me every time, where he has that experience coming into the league. So I think he's going to have a leg up on a lot of people he comes in with.
Okay. All right. I like that.
Derek Queen, another guy, center for Maryland. I was absolutely blown away by him in the last couple weeks. Way more skilled than I thought he was.
Yeah.
He's someone who consistently got the ball at the 3-point line, was able to drive, get to a spot, has a great handle for a 6'10" player with a lot of size. And he's someone who actually I could see playing in sets alongside of Donovan Clingan.
Okay.
I think there is a too big setup there just because he's such a conduit on the offensive side that I'm really excited to see where he could go.
Yeah.
Moving on in his career.
Yeah. And just a quick note to add to that, I put a little check mark here because I wanted to talk about him. But, yeah, we get to, the fit, what do the Blazers need or whatever. But it's like you see a player like Queen in between Clingan and Tumani, playing. Queen's at the 4. Then you have these 2 defensive dudes at the 3 and the 5 around you. I mean, that could work for sure because you're not lacking any defense from those other 2. So. But anyway, I really liked his play, and I had Maryland make it to the Sweet 16, so I was excited that they had a little game winner there to make it. But
yeah. I mean, he will get pick and rolled to death initially in the NBA. He's going to get tested on his lateral quickness, which might push him more into a pure center category. But I have a lot of hope from what I've seen. Someone, again, that 18-year-old, sky's the limit here. I don't think we've even started to see the tip of his potential, and someone who's definitely going to be in that draft range for Portland unless, they the ping pong balls don't fall their way, or there's someone who's just absolutely in love with his game, which he could be one of those type of players.
Sure. Hey, Steve, do you know off the top of your head? So we obviously have our draft pick. Do we have any others in this draft, or is it just the one? Okay, just the one first rounder. All right.
No seconds. At least last I looked,
okay.
I would be shocked. But also, this is a team that, Mike Schmidt loves those second round picks, and you can kind of get in and get one of those.
Oh, yeah.
So what I would tell Blazer fans is, even after the picks in, I would expect the Blazers are a team that could get back into the mix in the second round, especially if there's someone they like.
Cool.
So the next guy, someone I traveled to Tempe to watch in person when BYU visited Arizona State, is Igor Denham.
Yeah.
Everything about him on paper, I love. 6'8", point guard, sees the court really well. He delivered on that end. Has the size to theoretically be versatile on defense. Still plays pretty high stance on that side. I think he's going to get murdered on when he comes out on closeouts.
Yeah.
But just such a feel for where people are going to be and to set up other players, that it just blows my mind that he has no offensive touch for himself. Yeah. So it's very painful to watch some of his play. And if he can figure that out, I think he's someone who has a lot of potential. But right now, I just see him as a player that you would almost have to build your entire team around. And I don't think he just has that talent. If he's on the floor on offense, he needs to have the ball.
Yeah.
And the Blazers already have a few of those guys. So fit-wise, I don't really see it. But, man, does he see the floor well, and is really just a pure point guard with a great frame.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if he can find some of those the wily veteran type plays on defense, maybe learn something from Matisse, but that Alabama game last night, I mean, Alabama's still scoring right now, Steve. They're still scoring right now. So, I mean, they put up so many points, and it's not Igor's fault, but it's BYU is not a defensive juggernaut, and Igor was not helping the case there. So, but
just to backtrack slightly, but the Alabama game, Duke game, which will already have happened, is going to be really exciting to watch, because you're going to watch those three Duke players play at an NBA against a team that plays at an NBA pace with an NBA style. I think it's going to be a great test to see how those guys keep up with that play style.
Yeah. And Duke probably one of the best. Is probably the best defensive team in the country. Still left, obviously, and still left in the tournament. So that'll be a good conflict of styles there, or whatever, contrast of styles. So.
I've already mentioned Michigan's affinity for 2 7-footers running pick and rolls. So I'm gonna go right to Danny Wolf here. 7-footer with a ton of versatility. Doesn't have crazy efficiency shooting wise, but you want to talk about a player that's comfortable with the ball at all three levels, it's him.
Yeah.
Very few 7-footers have a ton of experience running pick and roll sets as the ball handler. I think for him at the next level, obviously not going to be your primary ball handler, but you think about what Draymond did for the Golden State for all those years of, when the floor gets unbalanced, you can kick it to him and he can get downhill and find an open guy. Now, granted, he has a lot of turnovers, but it's more of a system of what the offense was trying to do in Michigan this year. But he is on the older side for prospects. He's 21, will be 22 coming into the league if he decides to come out. But I think he's someone interesting in that late lottery, mid first round discussion that I think is someone to keep an eye on. Yeah, just for what he brings.
I think he would do well to stay in college for one more year, because I feel like even on our network of stuff that we do with our sports shows, he was getting so much more publicity as we got to the Big Ten tournament and things like that, that now I think people know who he is, obviously, and the height and if he stayed one more year, NIL deals for sure would be coming his way. But I think more people would keep an eye on him, good or bad. If he had a bad year, I guess that's a bad thing. But I would say Wolf, one more year. If I was your PR agent, I would say run it back. So.
And really, you nailed it. I think the NIL situation for some of these players, especially if they become a face, you have way more potential to make some more earnings at this level. Next guy I want to talk about, I mentioned him briefly when you mentioned Colorado State, but Neat Clifford is like my dream player to have next to a guy like Matisse Thybulle. And Matisse Thybulle and Tumani Kamara. Just another real get under your skin type defensive player.
Okay.
I was watching with my wife the last game when Maryland hits the game winner on them.
Yeah.
But I very rarely does she really make a comment about a player, and she's like, "That guy is really mean." He's always taking cheap shots, and I'm like, I know, I can't get enough of watching him play.
I love it.
But 6'6" does everything on the defensive end. Doesn't take plays off. Doesn't take possessions off. Like my wife pointed out, plays with a mean streak. I absolutely love it. He gets in the margins. Fearless rebounder, great rebounding rate, especially for a wing of his size at 6'6", and can score some points. I mean, not super efficient from anywhere, but I mean, really quietly racked up 21 points against Maryland. Someone who I could watch to see maybe if a bigger school wants to take a shot at him on like a grad transfer, but I love his game. Someone who, the Blazers wouldn't have to use an early pick. Maybe if he falls late enough, they can come up and get him if they want to.
Sure.
But just another guy to add on that defensive end that's just an absolute menace.
Yeah. Do you see? And I'm not trying to get too sidetracked because let's jump back in because do you have any more? You have more?
I got two more, but that's it. But no, go ahead.
Well, let me ask a quick question, and we'll come back. But like, if the Blazers had an opportunity to say trade, like, because as I look on this list, a lot of guards. Seems like a lot of guards. If we had the opportunity to trade Simons during the draft to a team that kicks back a first-round pick in that teens range, do you think that's a smart move? Like, would you be applauding that effort if the Blazers made that kind of trade and then selected someone like Clifford or another guard that you like? Or do you think the Blazers should not do that?
I mean, I think the Blazers probably are at a crossroads of what they want to do with some of these veterans, and I include Anthony Simons in that discussion. Now, I think if there's a draft where you're going to find some value in the teens, and there's someone that Mike Schmidt really likes in that range, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It all depends on what salary you have to take back. I would assume in an Ant trade, you're going to take back a significant salary, so it depends on what that looks like, but. There's a lot of guys in the teens I like. I think once you get outside of probably the top 4, top 5 of this draft, you can kind of make an argument from 5 to 20 that's a very similar talent pool.
Okay.
So if there's a couple guys in there that you like, I'm all for jumping back in the mix, especially if it helps you make a decision for your future, because you either have to you're going to be committing to re-signing Anthony Simons before you know it. And you have a couple guards that do a lot of the similar things on this roster already, and an opportunity, like you mentioned, how this board looks, to potentially draft another one of those guys. So I'm all for that type of move.
Okay. All right, cool. All right, I like it. Okay, sorry. Continue. 2 more lists. No. 2 more names.
So 2 names, 1 team. We'll keep it in the beautiful state of Texas.
There we go.
Texas Tech, guy I've absolutely enjoyed watching in the Big 12 tournament and in the NCAA tournament is Darian Williams. 6'6" forward, kind of that swingy power forward, small forward, would have been called a tweener, 15 years ago. He can really do it all. Like I think whenever Texas Tech really needs a big play or needs to get the momentum started, you'll usually find him around that play. I've already mentioned him before, but has a lot of stuff that reminds me of Draymond Green. Like, he's not a consistent three-point shooter, but I feel like when he does make them, they're in big moments. Kind of torpedoed his shooting average in the last game in that comeback yesterday. But but just a player I like, got some of that veteran savvy. He is 22 years old, so someone you'd probably be looking at more in the second round.
Okay.
Or maybe if he falls out of the draft, a perfect fit for potentially a remix player or a two-way contract if it gets that way.
Okay, and remind us the name one more time.
Darian Williams.
Darian Williams. Okay, that's a good nugget there, because those are the players that yeah, they're not going to go at the top of the draft board, but the Blazers could snag him and throw him on the remix and see what happens, get some development going. So I like that.
And it's something you see good teams do consistently is you find someone who's a high level producer at a college program that doesn't necessarily have the measurables or fits the age requirement to be a lottery pick, but still has a ton of talent. Like these are the players that in previous times the Spurs would have targeted, the Heat kind of target these players. Absolutely love what he brings to the table and his mentality. Just an all-around smart player.
Cool.
And then the other guy is JT Toppin, not related to Obi Toppin, but JT Toppin, 6'9", super athletic, only 20 years old, rebounds like crazy. And if you're watching Texas Tech for 5 minutes, you're probably going to see a highlight play from him. Yep. Crazy amount of athleticism. Another guy, even though he's 20, I think we haven't started to even see his full potential here. I think he's someone you can probably get in the late first, early second. So someone maybe you come back in for.
Yeah. Okay. I promise you and I did not script this. So when people are but I honestly wanted to start with Toppin in the topic. And again, Texas Tech. So he plays in the Big 12. I've watched him. So I'm a little biased and that's not the right word, but I've just seen him more than some of these other players. And if I'm drafting for need, and I know that's not what you're supposed to do, especially in the Blazers position, get the best player. But
when has that ever bit the Blazers in the behind in the history of the Blazers?
Never. It never has. Grab Odin. Grab him. Who needs Durant?
Sam Bowie got it.
We already got a guard. We don't need another guy.
No, sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, sorry. So I could see Toppin in that because I'm assuming Jeremy Grant has got to get traded. Like if he is on the Blazers roster on opening night in 2025 or at the beginning of the season next season, Steve, I'm going to scream. This cannot happen. So who is going to fill that 4 spot? I mean, I know you have to make the decision between Tumani and Avdia. What are we doing? Maybe Avdia is the 4. We could get into that. I like Toppin. I wish the Blazers would draft JT Toppin. I could see it. I could see it.
So to address your first point, I think you got to get over the anger part and get to the acceptance part.
No.
So if Jeremy Grant and Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton, all these guys are still on the roster, like I will just basically be living Matthew McConaughey's character from True Detective, where it's just time is a flat circle and we just got to accept it.
No, that's such a good reference.
I get what you're saying about the power forward position. I do worry a little bit. Like I think JT Toppin's very interesting in his draft slot, but he could be a little bit more Thomas Robinson than I'd like as far as what his ceiling might be. Sure. But again, those players are super useful if you're deploying them correctly.
Yeah.
I would like to see more of that 4 spot be a Tumani Avdia type situation, but the Blazers definitely do have to do something with Jeremy Grant here. Like I was absolutely shocked that they didn't move him before the season or at the trade deadline.
Yeah. I mean, like if we're sitting there saying, well, we couldn't get 2 firsts for him, that's ridiculous. To get the 1 then. Like what are we it makes no sense. It's crazy to me, Steve, that and I'd say Ayton actually during that winning streak was I don't say a huge reason why the Blazers were winning, but his commitment to the defensive end and rebounding, and he looked like he cared, was one of the reasons. Plus, we weren't playing great teams, but so he played well. Grant and Simons have seemed to like fall off for me this season, and to the point now that it's hurt their trade value. Versus if they had tried to trade them at the beginning of the year, we would have gotten more back. Like it's like we've almost but I just want to cut bait. I'm done. I want to move on.
Yeah,
just get something. Move on.
Yeah, that's where I was. I mean, Jeremy Grant, took the words right out of my mouth. Like there was, I think, a time where there was a rumor that we were like finagling over another first round pick from like the Lakers potentially. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, just do it for the 1 and get me Rui Hachimura and a salary and we'll get it done with.
And open up development space on the team. Like what? Yeah.
So that drives me crazy. I think Anthony Simons has helped himself a little bit. I would argue that his first month and a half of the season is some of the worst basketball I've ever seen a veteran guard play.
You're right.
It was absolutely disastrous.
Yeah.
And then he's kind of recovered down the stretch here. But this is a team, too, where I still don't know how I feel about Scoot Henderson after 2 years. I mean, he had a very good January that gave everybody a lot of hope. Yeah. But I don't know if I've seen anything long-term that really makes me think that he's your cornerstone point guard of the future, which granted that I think is going to happen for anybody who's going to follow Damian Lillard in that spot.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm a broken record. I've said this multiple times. I want to see Scoot start for a whole year. He is a starter. Like he is not a guy that comes off the bench. And I want to see that for 82 games or however many he could play. And then let's talk at the end and we'll see a full sample size and be like, he can't get it done, because I just think he hasn't really gotten that chance. There was that little stretch where Chauncey started him, and I think one of those games was the one where he hit those 8 threes. I mean, and then he's back on the bench again. And it's like, dude, just play the kid. Like, if he's not ready, who cares? Throw him out there. Let's just see what happens. And so, I don't know. I'm with you, too. Like, if we had to make a decision right now, he's probably not the guy, but I just would like to see it.
Well, I mean, you're a Baylor guy. I think the thing I come back to a lot is, what if you're in a position where VJ Edgecombe is the best pick for the Blazers? Like, you're talking about a player that profiles incredibly similar to what Scoot was coming out of college or coming out of the G League.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a really interesting discussion if the board does look that way, because I think VJ did a lot to help himself down the stretch. Mm-hmm. And I think overall, like, he's someone I think you could put in the, and I talked about this last time I was on here. He's someone I think you can put in the media spotlight. I'm very impressed by how he conducts himself on camera. Now, granted, you're exposed a lot more to it than I am.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen, I've been very impressed with his mentality at his age.
Oh yeah. He's been very mature. I mean, Scott Drew usually doesn't kind of put that type of pressure as far as media obligations go on a freshman, but like, VJ's been that and more, and so he's handled himself really well in that spotlight. I mean, yeah, I'm a little biased. If you could flip VJ for Scoot, I probably would do it, but just because I think the defense is there too, and that 3 ball, and just his like he just wants it. I just feel like the one thing that holds me back, and it's like a silly point, is like, Steve, I just can't picture a Baylor player being like an all-star in the NBA. Like we're really good at producing role players, but not like superstars. But maybe VJ he'll be the first to flip that. So
there's always got to be one.
There's got to be one. So okay. So all in all, as we're watching this, and Blazers fans are trying to get an idea of what the draft's going to look like, unless we get kind of lucky, 7% chance or 20% to get in the top 4, we're really looking at this range from like 7 to 10 as far as who we're drafting. And at that point, you're saying grab, just like always, but grab the best player available, or go for fit. I'm sorry, like fit.
Yeah. I think the only thing that you can truly say about this team right now is there's a couple things you don't need, but you kind of always need a bunch of those guys. Yep. Is you don't need a aggressive two-way forward, which that's a good spot to be in historically and where the Blazers typically are. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have Tumani Kamara, who's I think one of the, if not the best defensive forward in the league, one of the best.
Yeah.
And then Denny has been a complete revelation this year for me as far as his offensive aggressiveness. I mean, you can always use a forward player, but like those are the only 2 guys where I'm like, okay, I think the Blazers have these 2 slots figured out. I still, again, like Scoot, I kind of feel the same about Shaedon Sharpe as I felt about him for 2 years. Sometimes it's really great. Sometimes I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Donovan Clingan is great when he plays, but I don't know if he's ever going to be a player you can reliably count on to play more than 25 minutes a night. Yeah. So that opens the door for another center. Like I mentioned with some of the guys already, a Derek Queen, someone who has a complementary skill set to what he has, a Kaman Malwatch. I think that could be a very interesting addition to this nucleus right now. And then Scoot, we've already talked about it a bunch. I just don't know what's there. There are some good guard options in this draft, but
Yeah.
I still think you can go and get a point guard just about anywhere in a trade or in the draft.
Agreed. I'm with you. Okay, well, I'll leave you with this question, and if it's an obvious one, then forgive me. But outside of Cooper Flagg, if you could say Blazers, I want you to take. If you could pick, who would we take?
I still think it's Ace Bailey for me. I think just because of his size and his star potential,
Yeah.
I think he's the guy. Now I think what you have to work on with Ace Bailey are all coachable and correctable things.
Okay.
I think there has to be some consistency. There has to be some shot discretion. That shot diet's got to change a little bit. We got to eliminate the mid range completely. There's some leadership stuff that I picked up on at Hoop Summit where I think it comes very naturally to Cooper Flagg, and I think like Ace Bailey kind of sometimes forces that.
Okay.
Where I think it's just finding your voice and finding how you resonate with people. I think he has good intentions.
Yeah.
But just from a size athleticism standpoint, they just don't. Those players don't come around that often.
Sure.
And the Blazers certainly don't draft them. So
yeah.
So I think it'd be nice to go and get a player like that.
Okay.
And if it's not someone in the tournament, I do like Jace Richardson a lot. I think even though he is a 6'3" combo guard, I think there's a lot about his game that I really like. Yeah. And I think he's coming from a system in Michigan State that would give a little edge to the Blazers that they're already kind of building here that I think he'd fit in well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I totally agree with you, man. That edge, I mean, even Klingon, who just seems like this goofy kind of kid still, he wants it. I mean, you don't win championships at all the levels and not have this competitive nature to you, even if he's kind of awkward and lanky and not maybe I was going to use a football reference, like every down player, but, 35 minutes, 40 minutes in all matchups. But Klingon's out there, but we are building that, like, get in your face kind of team with Tumani and Advia. So why not go out and just complete it and go get Jace? And then whenever you can just make Shaden mad, I would just like figure out ways to piss him off before every game, because those are the games where he just gets in. He's electric, and it's like, make that guy mad. Maybe that's the team, but I just want us to get back to the point, Steve, where like we feel like, okay, we've tanked, or you and I both have been like hoping for losses so we can get into this draft. And I would love to move into next season with some sort of plan to then start. Let's see if we have a team that can win some games and get back to more exciting basketball. And Ace Bailey's it. I would love if Ace came in and became a first-team All-NBA player down the road and he was on the Blazers. That would be so cool. So.
I think what you're saying is where the point we want to get to. And I think a big indication for where the Blazers think they might be is their willingness to at least rumor or entertain the idea of taking a player like Con Knipples, because he's a player that you take when you're trying to go, that half step forward into like, hey, we're trying to be in the play-in. You go from, hey, we expect to be in the play-in with a player like this. He's going to raise our ceiling just this much so we can go and do something like that. Yeah. I think that'll be a good indication of where the Blazers think they are, if they're going to really go after a player like Con Knipples.
Yeah, and he would complement. I mean, if this Blazers team can build on this defensive type foundation that they've been we saw in January and really has kept going, especially with like a Tumani, then get the knockdown shooter, the all-around player. And Knipple, I mean, he's 6'7". I mean, he has some size there. I mean, I could see him in a Blazers uniform for sure.
Oh yeah,
could totally see that.
Easily do. And just from a floor spacing standpoint, he would do a lot to help. A guy like Scoot, where you're unclogging that lane for him and just adding that extra layer of just someone you can really trust to hit every open three when they get it.
Sure. Well, yeah, I 100% agree with you. I still think it's a travesty that the player we really need is Cooper Flagg, and yet we just flub these games, Steve. We're beating the Raptors and we're beating the Jazz, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, those are painful. And mostly those were games that I was doing the extended analysis for, and it was just like extra painful because I can hear, I'm watching the games, and then I'm like, shoot, we're going to win this. And then I hear our amazing managing editor, I can hear Dave saying like write positive things, like
Mhm.
not future stuff, and it's just like, oh, it's so tough,
Yeah.
Yet
Stronger than I am. This has been one of the most painful seasons for me to watch, I think.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to say because there has been some fun moments.
Yep.
But this was the one thing the Blazers couldn't do. Is be good this year with this draft class, and of course this is the year where they flirt with almost losing a first round pick. So
I know.
it's been tough.
I blame Phoenix. I blame the Suns for being bad because Phoenix should have like been a good team this year, and when we beat them back to back in January, that was a mistake. And then they should have just been good, so then we never had any chance at the play-in. But yet our team is like, well, we're only 3 games back. We're only 2 games back. And then the Luka trade. So those things, the Mavericks and Suns should have run away. There should have been no breath on the planet for us to hit the play-in. Yet here we were like, 2 games back like a week ago. And it's like, oh, guys, what are we doing?
And I get why you can't shut down these players at this age. Like that organizationally sends a really rough message to these players.
Yeah.
But like this is a situation where I think you could have avoided some of this. And keeping all your veterans past the trade deadline is another thing that's really wild to me. But maybe they'll get lucky. I mean, they've tried to tank and get good lottery odds. Maybe we're like going to be, the Atlanta Hawks this year, and I'll look like a big idiot and we get the first pick, and I'll be the happiest big idiot in all of Portland.
There you go. I did look back at like the year where we drafted Greg, and we were not. I mean, we were like 9th best odds or something. It was very long odds for us, and then we go and strike gold and get the number 1 pick. So it can happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but when you can do simple things to better your chances and we're not doing them. I will say to your point what you just said, you got to roll the players out there that can play, right? You don't want to hold everybody out. And like, it's a testament to, I think, how good we can be with Advia and Kamara, because those 2 guys keep every game close for the most part. I know Sacramento last night we lost by quite a bit, and they were both playing, but those guys are almost too good to tank. So I can't fault them for that, but it was that stretch in January where you're starting Ayton and Grant for a majority of those games. What are we doing, right? And Simons is playing. Like, that's a lineup where you're going out there to try to win games. We shouldn't have been doing that, and so that's bad.
Or you're trying to showcase them for a trade, and then you don't make a trade, and then
you don't make the trade. It's so crazy. So anyway, all right, dude. How's your bracket doing? Did you filled out a bracket?
So I think with college basketball now, what you have to keep in mind is it's okay to be super chalky right now. It's okay to, because now we're looking at as of today, potential of an Elite 8 that's 5 SEC teams, 2 Big 12 teams, and an ACC team is my most likely outcome. So I kept my upsets to the first round or so, and then I went pretty chalky the rest of the way. So I'm in really good shape.
That's good.
If today goes my way, I'll probably be back in the high 90s for percentile I'm in for brackets. So
very good.
But,
okay.
We'll see how it goes. But really we're seeing these smaller schools like the George Masons of 20 years ago, where you have a senior team all come up. Traditionally now, once one of those guys pops as a sophomore or junior, they're transferring to a bigger program. Yeah. So we're seeing the rich get richer, obviously, in these big conferences.
Yeah, I know. That part, it's like the fun part of the upsets, it was kind of not a thing, and that sucks. But at the end of the day, too, it's still fun to get, like, I want to see Alabama Duke. That's great. Mm-hmm. The one, what was that, 2007, or when all the 1 seeds made it to the Final Four. It was like an 07 or something. But that was such a shocking thing. But in reality, it's like, wasn't this what's supposed to happen? Yeah. And it never does. So that's almost more unlikely than it actually doing. But this year, has a very good chance of
but it's still been great to watch, just because the NBA, and I'm not the first person to say this, the NBA is a very distinct playing style. Almost everybody plays that same style. Mm-hmm. Where we're watching games now where it's very contrasting styles, like with the Duke Alabama thing. Who's going to establish their pace of play? Yeah. You have Michigan, who's running 2 7-footers and pick and roll. You have Drake that held the ball to the last 2 seconds of every shot clock before they shot. Like, it's still my favorite time of the year. It reminds me of why I fell in love with basketball in the first place.
Yeah.
And maybe as an indicator to Adam Silver on like how we can kind of push some of this analytics heavy play style out and get back to that contrasting styles and see what that might look like.
That'd be fun, man. That'd be cool. Well, Steve Dewald, thank you for always taking time to come on here, going through all your potential draft picks, the mock draft players to watch during March Madness. Thanks for taking the time to come on.
Always happy to do it. And congratulations. Hopefully you continue to cycle into the sleep zone as your daughter sleeps a little more.
Yes,
so.
That's the hope. I know. She wakes up once a night. I'll take that. Once a night's fine. 3 times a night, Steve, I can't do that. I can't do it.
Once you sleep 5 hours straight for the first time and feel like a human again, I'll never forget that moment when my daughter did that the first time. So.
You do. You just feel like you could go run a marathon. So, All right, dude. Well, thanks for being on the Rip City Roundtable. We'll see you later.